وَمَا آتَيْتُم مِّن رِبَا. And whatever you give for interest, لِيَرْبُوَ فِي أَمْوَالِ النَّاسِ, in order to increase within the wealth of the people, فَلَا يَرْبُو عِنْدَ اللَّهِ, it does not increase with Allah. You think that it's increasing the wealth, but in reality, it does not increase. وَمَا آتَيْتُم, and whatever that you give, مِن riba. Riba is from the root letters Ra, Ba, Waw. And what does riba mean? Interest, right? And what's the definition of riba? Technical definition of riba. Define it. What is interest? What is riba? Don't write and forget, okay? Because this is a very important thing. If we don't remember this definition, then it's quite possible that we, make mistakes in our financial transactions and buying and selling, so on and so forth. Okay? It's every qard, every loan that is given that brings back a profit. كُلُّ قَرْضٍ جَرَّ نَفْعًا فَهُوَ رِبًا. That every loan that you give, and in return for it, what do you get? A profit, a surplus. Then that surplus amount, that profit is what? Riba. You understand? Like for example, I give you $10. And I tell you, when you return these $10 to me, then you have to give me $12. Why? The $2 is my profit that I'm going to make on lending this to you. You understand? Now, for example, if I give you, let's say, a book on loan, and I say that, if you want to borrow this, and this is the fees. Like for example, for certain things like you go and take something on rent. You understand? That is the fees. Okay? That is the charges that you have to pay. But for cash, for money, when you give a loan and you bring back with it some profit, then that profit is what? That is what? Riba. Alright? So, وَمَا آتَيْتُم مِّن رِبًا, whatever you give for interest. Now, riba can also be understood as a gift. In certain situations, the word riba has also been understood as hadiyah, a gift. Why? Because sometimes people give a gift. Why? In order to get something in return. Right? Like for example, somebody is getting married, you give them a good gift, so that when your child gets married, what happens? They give a gift as well. Somebody got a very nice job. So what does a person do? He gives them a gift so that they can also benefit him in some way. So وَمَا آتَيْتُم مِّن رِبًا. Because of this ayah has been understood in two ways. That whatever you give for interest, and secondly, whatever gifts that you give. We'll look at the first meaning, and then we'll look at the second meaning. Okay? So whatever you give for interest, whatever you lend on interest. Why? لِيَرْبُوَ, so that it increases. يَرْبُوَ, Ra, Ba, Waw, same root as riba. And over here, يَرْبُوَ is being used in its literal sense. So that it increases, it grows. فِي أَمْوَالِ النَّاسِ, in the wealth of the people. Meaning, you pay interest thinking that it will cause an increase in the wealth of who? Of people, especially who? The person who has lent the money to you. You're paying interest on something, and you consider that as you pay that interest, what's happening? The person who has lent you that money, their money will grow. Think about it. If a person is paying 2% interest every month, then what is this doing? This is growing the wealth of the other person by 2% every month. Correct? لِيَرْبُوَ فِي أَمْوَالِ النَّاسِ. This is the objective of interest, isn't it so? That people pay interest, people take interest. Why? So that wealth can increase. You understand? So that wealth can increase. Like for example, if I say to you, I'm giving you $10. By the time you return my $10 to me, the value might be more, so give me 12. You understand? So when you give me 12, my money is going to increase by $2. لِيَرْبُوَ فِي أَمْوَالِ النَّاسِ. This is the main purpose of riba, so that it increases the wealth of people. But what does Allah say? فَلَا يَرْبُو عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. It does not increase in the sight of Allah. It does not grow in the sight of Allah. Because in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah 276, we learn, يَمْحَقُ اللَّهُ الرِّبَى وَيُرْبِ الصَّدَقَاتِ. Allah destroys interest and He gives increase to what? To charities. Riba, no matter what the quantity may be, but once riba enters some wealth, then what happens? It pollutes it, it destroys it, it corrupts it. There's absolutely no barakah. And charity, on the other hand, what does it do? It increases the wealth. فَلَا يَرْبُو عِنْدَ اللَّهِ وَمَا آتَيْتُم مِّن زَكَاةٍ. And whatever you give of zakat, why would you give zakat? تُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَ اللَّهِ, in order to gain the wajh of Allah, in order to see the face of Allah. فَأُولَٰئِكَ, then those people, هُمُ الْمُضْعِفُونَ, they are the ones who are getting multiplied benefit. Who? Those people who give sadaqah. So two things are being mentioned over here. Riba as opposed to sadaqah. When a person gives riba, he thinks that the wealth will increase. Somebody's wealth will increase. Right? But what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? It does not increase wealth. فَلَا يَرْبُو عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. And on the other hand, when a person gives zakat, and over here zakat will be taken as the meaning of charity. Why? Because this is a Makki surah, and in Makkah zakat was not obligatory. So over here zakat means charity. So whatever charity you give, what does that do? It multiplies the wealth of a person. It multiplies the rewards of a person. Isn't it so? Now remember that this is a Makki surah, and this is the first ayah that was revealed condemning riba. Because the prohibition of riba, when was that revealed? Later on in Medina. And where do we learn that? In Surah Al-Baqarah. Right? And Surah Al-Baqarah is a Madani surah. This is a Makki surah. So this is the first ayah that was revealed condemning riba. Remember, this ayah does not prohibit riba, this one in particular, but what does it do? It condemns riba. And how does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us dislike riba? That when you give riba, it does not bring you any benefit. But when you give sadaqah, then that brings benefit. The Prophet ﷺ said that no person gives in charity the equivalent of a date which was earned in a lawful manner, but Ar-Rahman takes it in His right hand and takes care of it for its owner, just as any one of you takes care of his foal or young camel until the date becomes the size of Mount Uhud. Mud'ifun. Mud'ifun is from what? Dad afa, to multiply. So those people are really multiplying their wealth. How? That they give a date, and what happens to that date? It grows into the size of a mountain, Mount Uhud. Now that is real profit. In Surah Al-Hadid, ayah 11, we learn, مَنْ ذَا الَّذِي يُقْرِضُ اللَّهَ قَرْضًا حَسَنًا فَيُضَاعِفَهُ لَهُ وَلَهُ أَجْرٌ كَرِيمٌ. That who is it that would loan Allah a goodly loan, so He will multiply it for him, and he will have a noble reward. A person who gives sadaqah, who spends in the way of Allah, what will happen? Allah will multiply that for him, and that person will have a noble reward. If you compare this with the previous ayah, what was mentioned in the previous ayah? Spending on relatives, on the needy. Now many times what does a person think? That instead of spending on my relatives and on the needy, if I invest this money over here and gain interest on that, at least my money will grow. Isn't it? But what does Allah say? You get interest, you pay interest, okay, but your money will not actually grow. When will it grow? When you spend in the way of Allah. When you give the others their haqq. And with interest, it may seem that your money is growing 2%, 1%, 3%, but in reality, it's not growing. There's no benefit of that growth in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In fact, there will be no barakah, no blessing in that wealth. Because sometimes it happens that a person, let's say he purchases a new car with money that was not completely halal, and what happens? One accident, that's it, finished. Finished. Doesn't it happen? People have businesses. One natural disaster and that's it, finished. One of my relatives, they live in the US, in a place where a lot of tornadoes and hurricanes they hit, and they were mentioning about how many people they know who have started businesses, who worked all their lives as taxi drivers, people who've been working in convenience stores, and whatever money they accumulated, what did they do? They invested it in, let's say, a shop or something like that, and one tornado and everything finished. And now what do? They clean other people's houses to make money. So, I'm not saying that whatever they made was haram. I'm just trying to explain that if a person saves only for himself, when he becomes selfish, when he takes riba, when he gives riba, then what happens? It does not grow his wealth. But when a person spends in the way of Allah, when a person gives to the needy, then that is an investment that will bring multiplied benefits, multiplied reward. So this is one interpretation of this ayah. The second interpretation of this ayah is that وَمَا آتَيْتُم مِّن رِّبًا, that whatever you give of riba, meaning whatever gift you give, why? For the purpose of demanding more in return, for the purpose of getting more in return, لِيَرْبُوَ فِي أَمْوَالِ النَّاسِ, so that that gift would increase in the wealth of people. لِيَرْبُوَ فِي أَمْوَالِ النَّاسِ, so that that gift would increase in the wealth of people. And as a result, they would give you something in return. Allah says, فَلَا يَرْبُو عِنْدَ اللَّهِ, then such a gift, it does not grow in the sight of Allah. وَمَا آتَيْتُم مِّن زَكَاةٍ, and whatever you give in charity, whatever you give with sincere heart, تُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَ اللَّهِ, sincerely for the sake of Allah, فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُضْعِفُونَ. Now sometimes what happens? People, they give gifts to one another. Why? To get some benefit in return. Just like riba. You give to bring back a benefit, to gain something in return. But when a person gives a gift like this, then this is what? A waste of reward. A person is wasting his reward. And this is something that is forbidden. We learn in Surah Al-Muddathir, ayah number 6, وَلَا تَمْنُنْ تَسْتَكْثِرْ, and do not confer favor in order to acquire more. Do not show favors to other people. Why? To get more benefits from them. If you think about it, gifts are given at many occasions. Like what? Weddings. What else? Eid. What else? When a child is born, at a baby shower. Huh? What else? Graduation. Yes. What else? Birthdays. Okay, when people move into a new house, when they buy a new house. Different occasions, right? And sometimes the intention behind giving a gift to someone is truly to help them. Like for example, young people are getting married and people give them gifts. Why? They have to start a new home. They have to start a new life together. So people really want to help them. And as a result, what do? They give them good gifts. Somebody just graduated. You give them a gift. Why? To encourage them. Right? To help someone, to encourage them, to motivate them. But sometimes the intention is something else as well. And what is that? That if I give a gift to this person, they will also give me a gift. You understand? If I give a gift to someone, they will also help me. But if a person's intention is like this, then there is no reward for such a gift near Allah. فَلَا يَرْبُو عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. This does not grow in reward in the sight of Allah. Because think about it. When you give something to a guest who has come to your house, when you give something to your relative as a gift, now you're giving something, you're parting from your wealth, you're following the command of Allah, فَآتِ ذَا الْقُرْبَى حَقَّهُ وَالْمِسْكِينَ وَابْنَ السَّبِيلِ. Technically you should be getting a reward for that. It's not necessary that it's sadaqah. Okay? It's not necessary that it's sadaqah. Sadaqah is given to who? Someone who is needy. But a guest who's coming to your house, you give them a gift. Why? Because they're poor? No. You give them to honor them. So technically, a person should be getting reward because he's obeying the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if a person gives it with a wrong intention, then there is no reward for that gift giving. فَلَا يَرْبُو عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. No reward for that gift giving. Like you have a guest staying at your house, you give them a good gift. Why? Thinking that when you go, they will also give you a very nice gift. You travel, you go back home, you take gifts for your relatives, thinking that they will also give you very nice gifts when you're leaving. That's what people think, right? But such intention does not bring any reward to a person. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows our intentions. What is the objective of gift giving? Think about it. To increase love. Tahaddu, tahabbu. But if a person gives gifts like this, then does it increase love? Not at all. What does it increase in return? Burden. Because the person who is receiving that gift, he will consider it to be a burden that, oh my God, I have to return this to them somehow or the other. You understand? Now in certain cultures, this is how gift giving is considered. That if somebody gives you a gift, you have to give them a gift of equal amount as well. You cannot give them any less than that. Which is why, for instance, at weddings, what do people do? They write, this person gave this much gift. Why? So that when their child gets married, you can return it to them somehow or the other. Now when you've taken that gift and you've written, okay, $500 they gave. Oh my God, I have to give $500 as well. Is that going to make you happy or feel burdened? Burdened. Is there any love? No love. There's only burden. And when a person gives with the intention of receiving something in return, somehow or the other, it comes out. Somehow, in the behavior, in the comments, in whatever is said afterwards, it comes out. And it's very heavy on the receiver. Extremely heavy on the receiver. What do you want? Keep this gift to yourself. Thank you very much. I don't want any of it. You can keep it to yourself. So, such gifts do not increase love, rather they increase burdens. And they do not bring people close together, rather what do? They separate people, isn't it? Distances, they increase. Because you know that the next time you have to go back home, then you have to take a lot of gifts. And what happens? Everybody's expecting. And if you don't give them, then what will happen? They will not give you anything in return. Because this is what do you say? Forget it, don't go. Right? This is what people think. This is not the right way. We learn in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah 264, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, la tubtilu sadaqatikum bil manni wal ada. That, O you who have believed, do not invalidate your charities with reminders or injury. That after you've given something to the other person, don't remind them again and again. So what did you do with that gift? By the way, my birthday is also coming up. As long as it's not something that is burdened upon you. I remember somebody was doing this once, and there was another person who happened to pass by, and they said that I don't look at what the other person has given me and how much I'm supposed to give them. Rather, I look at what I can give them. So, if they have given me something very small, and I can give them something that is better, just because they gave me something small, doesn't mean that I don't give them something better. No. The thing is that if you're really grateful for a favor that somebody's shown you, then what will happen? You will want to pay them back somehow or the other. Isn't it so? And that will be by good words, by treating them in a good way, by remembering them, by making dua for them, by sending gifts to them. And sometimes it will be something small that you can afford, and sometimes it could be more that you could afford. And sometimes it's not really the value. What is it? It's the benefit that that thing brings. Sometimes people think, oh my God, such an expensive gift. Now it means I have to give them an equally expensive gift. Like for example, if a person gives to another out of nowhere something made of gold, then what will happen? They will feel like, something's going on. Isn't it so? That maybe it means something is expected of them. So you don't want the other person to feel bad. So don't give expensive gifts. But give something that is useful. The thing is, we should not expect anything from people. Just because a person is very wealthy does not mean they have to give expensive gifts. Again, this is not the right way. You should give what you can afford. You understand? If a person has a lot of money, and when it comes to giving a gift to someone who is poor, what do? They give extremely cheap gifts. Why? So that when the other person has to give them a gift, they don't have to give them very expensive. This is again, same thing, riba. You're giving so that you can get something back. Now, this is not the correct way. You should give whatever you can afford. You should give whatever is within your capacity, without israf and without going to other extremes. Hadiyah is in fact that which is given with no strings attached. I mean, you don't expect anything in return. You don't expect that the other person to change in some way. You're giving it out of your own goodwill. So when you give something in that way, then you don't expect anything in return. What do we learn? لا نريد منكم جزاء ولا شكورا. When a person gives sincerely for the sake of Allah, he doesn't expect any jaza in return, not even any gratitude. He doesn't even expect, a thank you note, a thank you card, when he's giving exclusively for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Which is why, if you see what has been mentioned over here is, تُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَ اللَّهِ, that you're seeking the face of Allah. You desire the face of Allah. When that is your goal, then what will you do? You will give the best that you can. You will not try to remember, okay, what did they give me last time? So I should not give them something too expensive. It's like somebody sends you some food, and they've sent that food in their dishes. So when you return the dishes, you don't want to send empty dishes back. So what do? You put a little bit of food in there. Perfectly fine. It's okay. Now, it would be wrong that if, let's say, you send some food to someone, and if they send empty plates back, you're like, look at them. Empty plates. You sent them some dessert so that you could get some dessert in return. If a person gives a gift and he takes it back, then that is like a dog vomiting and then eating up that vomit. So, this is not necessarily taking that gift back, but it's like expecting equal or better in return. The same thing happens in parties as well, that if you've invited some people over and you prepare some food for them, a lot of food, and when you go over to their house, you expect that they should also have equal or more amount of food, and if it's any less, then you feel as if you've been disrespected. This is incorrect. You see, everyone's situation is different. Everybody's situation is different. It's quite possible they have the money, but they don't have the time. You understand? They have the money, they don't have the skill. You understand? Every person is different. So you should look at what you are able to do and do your best. You understand? Because that is the main thing. تُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَ اللَّهِ. And you're giving the haqq of the other person to the best that you can. And when you have this niyyah, when you have this intention, then this will really increase love. On the Day of Judgment, those three people will be brought: the scholar, the reciter of the Quran, the person who used to spend in the way of Allah, and also the person who used to do jihad in the way of Allah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will remind them of the different blessings that He bestowed on them, and He will ask them that, what did you do? And each will say that I did this, I did this. But what will Allah say? You never did it for me. You did it for praise, or you did it to get something in return, and you got it. You got your jaza in the dunya. So similarly, if a person gives a gift to someone, expecting something in return, then that is what? Jaza. And if he gets that jaza in the dunya, then what does he expect in the hereafter? He should not expect anything in the hereafter. But if a person does it with sincerity, then what will happen? Inshallah, there is reward for him in the hereafter, and whatever benefit the other person gets out of that gift you've given them, that also will be written in your records, inshallah. It really highlights the importance of intention. That a person must have a sincere intention, that he must do it exclusively for the sake of Allah. And when you do something for the sake of Allah, then nothing is difficult. Giving something, expensive is not difficult. Giving a gift is not difficult. It's not difficult at all. We learned about mawadda and rahmah between husband and wife. And we see that in mawadda you're sacrificing. Isn't it? You're giving up your right to make the other person happy. So this is what increases love and mercy between people. That no matter what, the other person gives you, no matter how small, insignificant, invaluable it may be, don't belittle it. Because you don't know, it might be the only thing that the other person can afford, or they can afford at that moment. Right? Which is why he said that even if your neighbor sends you the feet of a sheep, accept that. Take it. That's whatever they could afford at that point. We've made gift giving a really big deal, unfortunately. That it has to be in a very nice bag, and it has to be wrapped up very nicely. It's good to decorate the gift that way, but because we have put these unnecessary burdens on ourselves, This is why whatever has to be in the bag also has to be extremely valuable. Right? When you're giving for the sake of Allah, then you're expecting reward from who? Allah. So when you give something, then don't expect from the person. Expect from who? Allah. If we do it for the sake of Allah, then Allah will put the love in the hearts of people. Allahu alladhi khalaqakum. Allah is the one who created you. Summa razaqakum. Then He has provided you. He is your khaliq and He is also your raziq. He is the one who created you and He is the one who provides for you. You don't provide for yourself. Summa yumitukum. And then He will give you death. When? After this life of yours. Summa yuhyikum. Then He will give you life again on the day of resurrection. هَلْ مِن شُرَكَائِكُمْ. Is there any from your partners مَن يَفْعَلُ who does مِن ذَلِكُمْ from that? Is there any one of your partners whom you associate with Allah who does any of this? مِن ذَلِكُمْ. Any of that? مِن شَيْءٍ from anything at all? Subhanahu. Perfect is Allah. Glorified is Allah. وَتَعَالَى and exalted عَمَّا يُشْرِكُونَ above what they associate with Him. In other words, no one but Allah is capable of doing this. Of what? Of khalq, of giving rizq, of giving death, of giving life again. Ibrahim a.s., what did he say? Rabbi alladhi yuhyi wa yumit. My Lord is the one who gives life and He also gives death. No one but Allah is able to do this. So, over here basically Tawheed is being established. Because if you look, the theme of all of these ayat is what? Tawheed. That shirk is being refuted and Tawheed is being established. That if there's no one else who can do this, then how can you prostrate before other than Allah? How can you expect from other than Allah? How? Even if it's, giving a gift to them and expecting something in return. When they cannot give you anything. When they're unable, when they're incapable. So do it for the sake of Allah and expect only from Him. Because no one is like Him. We listen to the recitation of these ayat. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.